folds of mountains grow wider than the sky. Inner power, like the rainbow, arise with every sigh. We watch the souls of humans so quickly passing by. Inner power, like the vine grows throughout our many lives. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Yoganali, welcome everyone. Happy to see everybody tonight. We are walking in the new moonlight with the Earth's Taught Grandmother's Council. And we're so delighted to be deepening into relationships again. So our format for Walking in the Moonlight is for council members to speak on the topic and then to open for discussion. So initially we won't have the chat or the mics open, and we'll have me and SD spotlighted, and then we'll open up the gallery. So it's always good to see our four-legged friends joining us. Sweet, beautiful dog there in the gallery. And mine's all curled up over here. He knows what to expect of these Zoom meetings. So may we all be as loyal to our true nature as our four-legged friends are teaching us now. And boy, talk about relationship. They are the deepening in relationship. They are teaching us now in the fourth world how to be the most human we can possibly be. And then we can move into the fifth world. And if we don't catch on to what the animals are teaching us and become the most human we can be, then it may be time to start another wave of humans and try again. We're reminded that this has happened so many times throughout time, before time even, millions of years going back, finding remains of various waves of humans, and knowing that there were many before us, and I'm sure there will be many after us. And so as we deepen into our relationships, it's good to think that we can lengthen our time here on earth and really influence things by our actions. So, okay, we got the spotlight going. Soon we'll get the chat and the mute going. I'd love for SD to turn on his video and join me in the spotlight if he's able to do that. And I think we'll have Patricia Aguilera and Becky Big Canoe joining us, and Michael DiMartino will all be here as soon as they can get here. We're always happy to see all of them, but if Pamela will mute everyone and turn off the chat, then I will begin by speaking about relationship. In my experience, we teach from where we are. And as many of you know, I'm still recovering and coming through the most horrific tornado hurricane combination. Hellacious Hurricane Helene just came into these sacred mountains and took down the trees and overflowed the water, took many lives, and really did a lot of damage and showed us the power of the storms. Those of us who are here have never seen that in these mountains before. It surpassed the 100-year floodplains. And really was much bigger than what I could have ever imagined or heard of. So I'm still reeling and still recovering one small thing at a time, and realizing every time I'm able to go outside, I realize my deep relationship with these trees on this mountain that I've been in that relationship with for over 30 years. And to see them on the ground, they're my landmarks. They're my roots too. My ancestral roots go so deep into this mountain and into this sacred homeland that it's incredible to feel all the upheaval that we are experiencing with these changes. So I want to really encourage the deepening of relationship to the land, to the trees around each of you. And that doesn't happen in English. That happens in the heart. It happens with the feelings. It doesn't happen with words. You stand in the forest and the trees call to us, and we give them our full presence, our full attention, and our love and the opening of our heart. And when we do that, we feel their response. We feel the connection to the trees, and we feel our relationship with that particular tree, and the relationship of that tree to all the other trees, and how they take care of each other, and the way they dodged my house and my car and kept me and my dog safe. They even dodged the furniture that I had out in out in the forest to make me more comfortable. And it's amazing. I mean, that's so non-linear. It's so obvious that it is help from the spirit world, and my relationship with the helpers in the spirit world who've done their work and are capable of participating in that kind of power. Let that just sink in, because it's shocking to witness, to see, and to experience that kind of power. I had just done my journey a few days before the storm for the next dance that I'd been asked to do, called replenishing. And I was able to do my drumming in the few days after the storm, in that ecstatic feeling of, hey, I'm still alive. Look, I'm still alive. And nobody could even walk in to see if we were all still alive for 4 days. So we sat here neighbor to neighbor. Only 2 neighbors could walk around. The road was gone to a landslide. The boulders were everywhere. The trees were everywhere. Nobody had experienced anything like this before, and we were able to just yell at each other. Are you okay? What do you need? What can we do? And the music that came from that first drumming is truly different. Not as different as my life is going to be without my relationship to the trees that I love so much, that are now lying on the ground. The spring that I have to pick my way through the trees to get to the stream that I love, that brings me the songs. The trees dodged the Inipi Lodge. They even protected the Inipi, and it'll take some time and some cutting to be able to walk there. Now we crawl under and over and around and just feel the solidity of that sacred womb space. that we created in relationship with the community in ceremony, just like the relationship that I feel with most of you here in community. Even though we are not physically in the same place, we've been together for 2 or 3 years now, and we've deepened into a relationship, a sharing and a bonding that we feel so fully within our blood and our bones and our essence of our spirit. And it's surprising how much those relationships can also nurture our spirit in times of trauma. And that was the thing I missed the most. Yeah, I missed the water and the electricity, and I didn't get groceries for 2 weeks, but I miss being able to gather on Zoom or to see anyone that I'm close with for over 2 weeks. And the importance of the relationship that we cultivate, that is the feminine. So I think my Wi-Fi may be a little unstable still. I'm on a new system that I love, but if that happens and I disappear for a moment, I'll ask Pamela to continue. I might leave off accidentally. But the other part of deepening into relationship that I want to encourage tonight is the natural bonding process. You know, I didn't just come up here on this mountain and start hugging trees. There is a natural bonding process that's created when we really are present with all life around us. Think back when you were probably 6 or 7 years old. One little child in the neighborhood or the school or wherever you happen to be may have caught your eye and gotten a little more attention than the whole group of children around you. And sometimes, you know, some of us were a little shy and a little slow, but there was this difference in that connection. There was a little bit of something magical. And it may have been a year or two before you did more than look at that particular person a little longer. You know, maybe you were an extroverted, courageous child and you played with and touched hands and, you know, held hands and really experienced that particular relationship a little deeper. But that natural bonding process is so critical in every relationship that we need to honor that time and that presence and that information from our body. My body responded to the trauma around me much sooner than my brain absorbed it and responded to it. The bonding process begins with our eyes, and then it moves to our touch or our voice or our heart or wherever it may take us. The observation of that process and that natural bonding that truly, truly forms the deepening of relationship is what I want to share with you at this time. And in my ancestral Selagiwes, we were allowed to choose our other mothers and other fathers and all brothers and sisters. we were allowed to navigate towards those that we felt that relationship bonding occur with. And that was as much of the learning process as any part of school or growing up or the developmental stages that we all go through and the way that family supports us in those developmental stages. That recognition of ourselves and our own true nature and our gifts that we bring with us when we come here to do our unique work shows up in relationship. And you have to really watch for it because some things we can only see as we project them onto others. And that will be, the gifts that we really honor in another person. And it may take some of that time for us to see those gifts in ourselves. Or it can go the other way, the things we don't particularly want to see, or we don't like, or we react to fiercely, are just as important because that's what holds our gold and hides our gifts of creativity. The shadow is the place where we learn to cope with things, but those things can hide our gold and our creativity and our gifts that we came here to work with. So my Jungian training is again pulling from our ancestral medicine ways and coming together in this way. And I'm happy to work with anybody who wants to explore their own gifts in these ways and to talk more deeply one-on-one about any of these topics that we encounter as we bring in these walks in the moonlight together. And I'm so grateful to all of you for being here in this beautiful way. And I'll ask Esty to talk to us now or sing to us or tell us a story or whatever he wants to share. Esty's the one who chose the deepening into this relationship topic for tonight. So I'm happy to turn things over to him and see what he has to share with us at this time. So can you unmute, Esty? We can't hear you yet. Pamela, is he able to unmute? You may need to ask him to unmute, make it easier. Yeah, you're unmuted now. Welcome, Esty. No, we can't hear you. I don't see your mic, but I don't hear you yet. Pamela, can you help us out in any way? Okay. We'll work through whatever we need to. This is easy and worth it. It's always nice when everybody pitches in, shares their experience. That's why we are direct experience-based peoples, coming together in community, sharing everything. Very sweet. And that is relationship. The biggest part of relationship is showing up. Just showing up together for each other at every opportunity. That's the first step and the biggest step. When we're
And how are the bears doing? With all the trees down where you are.
I have seen evidence of them being here, but I haven't seen them. I imagine they found a safer place. I'm hopeful anyway. I know in the few days after the storm, it was a couple days, I saw one squirrel one chipmunk. And now, I see two or three, but I don't see a lot of the animals. I'm missing the opossums and the bunnies. I don't know how the animals fared. I know the ground shook, and it shook my whole house with so many trees falling. So I can't imagine where a safe place would have been if they didn't go somewhere else. So I'm hoping they will return more and more. But yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Ursula. You know, in deepening relationship, I'm reminded of my family ways of the my mom was the youngest of 12, so we were, a family of 12 families, and we would gather on the farm that she grew up on every weekend and live in our ancestral ways and then go back into the city and try to assimilate during the week. And so when we came into the weekend gathering, we came and went at at our, you know, at our pleasure, whatever worked for us. We didn't have set times. We didn't really see the clocks as much, in our native ways. But we would slip into a room with 30, 40 people in it, and we would slide along the wall, through the door and slide along the wall so that we could allow our hearts to come into sync with the hearts in the room and our heart and mind to come into sync. So we're going to give Becky a few moments to come into sync like that. Hope that SD works out his technical challenges and comes back to join us real soon and do what we can. Keep rolling with what we have to work with. So that kind of relationship, that slipping in and coming into sync with the room, being aware of our heart opening to the community that we're in the room with, and building relationships by showing up and really honoring the feelings that are unique in every Zoom room we enter and every real room we enter. I mean, I think of Zoom room being just as real because my bonds with the people that I'm in community with are just as real. I learned that during the storm. The storm and 2 weeks in solitary confinement taught me a lot of things. And I will be doing something soon to share my experiences to help you all gain some preparation skills that make everyday life a little easier to orient towards storms and natural disasters that may occur. I want to share my experiences in a way that helps people be ready. Ursula, I see your hand. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I just thinking earlier about how bears hibernate, and for some reason I had this romantic notion when I saw that things were coming back to normal for you, that you were probably hibernating like the bears around you until things came back to normal. But then the funny thing is, talk about coincidence, I had a call from a friend of mine who suddenly said to me, I had this feeling the other day that this bear turned up and hugged me from behind me. And I said, all right, you don't quite know what to say. She said, yeah. And I wondered if you had any experience of speaking to your elders and the grandmothers that they could perhaps explain, because it was such a beautiful feeling, she said, to be embraced from behind by this what she called yeah, like a bear, or maybe it was a human being, but I said I had no idea about bears in terms of what they symbolize. But if I ever got the chance, funny enough, and then I thought, well, I'll ask you if there's a moment.
Mhm. Beautiful. That's a wonderful question. Thank you, Ursula, so much for sharing that. The bears bring us strength. My closest encounter with the bear was shortly after I moved into my house. I had a black chow dog that I moved in with, and she was at the door looking through the glass and just doing things I had never seen her do before. And she was very protective, and I had this motion detection light, so I went over there and I flipped it on, and I was saying, "Oh, honey bear, is there a doggy in your yard?" And when the light came on, I was eye to eye with the biggest bear I've ever seen, standing on the porch at the door, looking me right in the face. And it was love at first sight. It was so deep and so strong and powerful and just heart opening. And I said, "Ooh, what kind of bear is that?" I mean, no, I said, "What kind of dog is that?" Because I was thinking it was a dog. Unfortunately, I had a friend visiting and he said, "That is a bear." And I can believe the words that came out of my mouth. He was actually a sailor and he did actually blush at the words that came out of my mouth when I realized this instant love connection was with the biggest bear I'd ever seen. And being hugged from behind, is beautiful as well. It's like the shadow. We can't see our shadow, but everyone else can. Think about when you're walking down the street, the people that you meet eye to eye, face to face, are far fewer than the people that are seeing you, all of us walk down the street, seeing every aspect of us. And when you're in the city in a collective place, look around, look around and look at people's shadow side. Look at their mannerisms and the, their body movements and see just how much you can see from behind a person. It can really be eye-opening, and a hug, that's a sweet way to look at people, look at people with the kindness and compassion and helpfulness, and just feel that energy at the deepest levels and be in relationship with everyone that you're able to encounter, like a big bear hug from behind. That's what I would take from that kind of feeling. We can we can go with Becky and hear what she has to say about deepening interrelationship.
Thank you. So
Let
nice
us
to
know
be here
what
with all of you. Can you hear me? Am I
Yeah,
being?
we can hear you, Becky.
Oh,
You're
great.
good.
Oh, right on. Here we are all together. Awesome. So I'm just having like the most excellent experience of relationship because I've been watching videos about our old hand games, stick game, moccasin game, where the people get together and they have these bones that they hide in their hands and they have these sticks that show who's winning the game. And they have to sing these songs and they have to hide the bones and guess who's got the bones. And then there's drummers and rattle shakers going on behind, and the energy is just beautiful, just beautiful. The people are happy to be together and they're active and they're involved in the game and it's friendly. It never gets over competitive. It's fun. And I'm thinking that's what we're missing. That's relationship. We're missing that. We're missing our clowns, our time together where we just electrify the air with our joy, and people are getting a workout because they're moving and you're throwing off all your negative energy. It's gone, and I just loved it. Actually, I was watching them about a year ago or so, maybe a little longer, And I found this film all about hand game, and it talks about it from the Dene territory up the way north to the Tulalip and the Squamish and the everywhere, and then to the east. Like, we had this game everywhere, and people would use it to settle disputes. Was one of the main reasons. So if you challenge somebody to a game because you had a dispute, whoever wins the game, they won the dispute, and the other guy said, okay, I'll forget about it from now on. And so that was it. That was over. No more dispute. And another thing you can do with hand games, because people like to gamble things, eh? They put up prizes and their prize blankets or their beadwork or their traps or some bullets or whatever they have to share. And if the people knew that there was a family in need because they didn't have enough resources, they could contrive it so that that family wins enough to take home with them to keep going. And this was a way of sharing the wealth equitably without anybody having to lose face. So that's what relationships about to me right now. And I'm really happy I could share that with you all. Yeah. And so what I'm going to do is I'm making sets, right? I'm getting my girlfriend to sew up a nice cloth bag. The bag you receive will have this game in it, this video. Some of the bones that you hide in your hands and the sticks. So when you order it for about $50, we'll mail them out, and then they can start getting their community back into hand game. That's the idea. So that's my share.
Thank
I
you, Becky.
can
That's
tell you more
super.
if you want, but that's what I got right now.
That's perfect. Yeah. Having fun, playing together, just like when we were children.
Yeah.
Make a huge difference. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, then let's go to Michael DiMartino. I think he's going to give us some ancestral relationship experiences. Michael, come on in.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay, I'm going to come on camera right now.
Great, thank you.
I was working on my set.
Oh, I see. You have a set. Oh boy.
Yeah, no,
So your
I've been
usual
traveling a
set.
lot. I have the most lackluster set of vehicles and cafes you could imagine, but thank you so much. So yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to see you, Grandmother Gail, and of course Becky, and even though we don't see him, our brother SD, my neighbor out there in Taos. It's great to see Sylvia and of course Pamela helping support. So I will say it's such a loaded question. It's like I'm gonna try not to ramble too much. But so we're focused on relationships, correct?
Deepening, yeah, deepening into.
Got it. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't relationships, but instead of a P, it was a T. I just wanted to make sure of that. So instead of relation, so that's what I thought. But I say that out of tongue-in-cheek jest. But again, we're in such an incredibly transformative time. And as in many of our conversations, that whole idea of you know, being compassionate, showing in the world, being of service, connecting with the elementals in nature and the simplicity and the purity of that, but also as we function in the world, just the importance of discernment of our time and energies and efforts. So, you know, two things come up. I know we spoke briefly, you know, around relationships. So for me, you know, it was interesting yesterday. I'm actually back in California. I was in Colorado. I'm back here. But typically on Halloween, which is not necessarily a holiday I celebrate per se, but I do acknowledge some of the ancient meaning and symbolism behind it. So typically I build an altar in downtown Nevada City. I do some drumming. I put out some candles and make some offerings, just in the sense of bringing an awareness to about some of the symbolism imbued to Halloween about ancestral connection, acknowledgement, the veil between worlds being thin, not necessarily, getting candy or people dressing up like, vampires or cartoon characters and stuff. Although, especially with kids, it's cute to see people expressing these different aspects of the self. But it is always interesting to me, when I set up typically and do that, like the fascination of children and young people. They're out there with their parents, or they're, in town. We get thousands of people, and just how they stop. And it's really amazing, just kind of holding space for deeper meaning and symbolism in today's world, where so many things can be kind of just, more superficial. And another opportunity for consumerism and advertising. But nonetheless, it's amazing to have these relationships of people I've never met, just being out there and playing and seeing how children react. And it's great because a lot of the kids will actually start putting candy on the altar, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm drumming." And that segues kind of into relationships, as we were speaking earlier too, Gail, about my own ancestral relationships. But so I just wanted to mention that, it was, I'm not sure if that was intentional, but it just seemed like a very powerful guiding word at this time. um when supposedly the veil is thin, but also just being out there. I'm not as public as I used to be as a musician, but just kind of being there in a ceremonial capacity, and really like bringing depth and meaning to, so many kids. It's amazing, like hundreds of kids, like young kids stop and they dance. And so just kind of bringing something different than, sugar and sensationalism. So, even though I'm not as public now, that, it was nice to be back here unexpectedly and have actually, I wasn't even going to do it, but a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, will you be out there drumming tonight?" And I was like, I'm kind of enjoying a little more of the retreat um retreat part of my life right now, just like being quiet and not being so social. But you know spirit moved me to, like, well, people kind of come to expect it. And so I went out, and I was really pleasantly surprised. It was yeah, really sweet to have that nonverbal connection with young people, and then bringing the meaning. And there were a lot of dancing Beetlejuices last night, I will say that. But what that parlayed and segued for me into, and again, we spoke about this, as a musicologist, as a musician, as someone who tries to be a unity person, but also giving respect to the many different traditions and cultures and paths I've been around. How do I embrace that and work with that medicine without the blatancy and the disrespect of appropriation? So, it kind of just spiraled me back into my path about my Italian ancestry. And of course, you say Italy, most people think about the Romans and, you know, that whole aspect of history. But, for me as a drummer and as a ceremonial person, when I spend time in Italy and even in my family, there's a lot of history with my family going back to when Italy was connected with Africa and Sicily, and the important role of drumming, what they called the Black Madonna before Christianity. And just really being there last night just kind of put me back in touch again, as a drummer and ceremonial person, a unity person, but kind of my own relationship to my own ancestral through the altar on Halloween, but also just, reflecting on what my ancestors in Italy and the music and the role they played in our traditional culture before before Christianity. So that's all I wanted to add. It just, I feel really that part of the world from Egypt to Spain, Morocco, Sicily, Italy, and my father looked very North African. I mean, he literally had a black afro, was really dark. If you've ever seen like um, men from Tunisia or Libya or stuff. But I also realized part of my ancestry was in the north, that we had a lot of Vikings that, stormed our shores. So I thus got the passive every few generation Viking gene. So anyway, I just maybe a little bit of a ramble, but it just kind of put me in touch, yesterday with putting energy out there in service to the community, the beauty of young people being able to get more meaning out of things, and then, reflection on my own ancestry and kind of a cultural function and attributes that, I have worked to try to just bring to the world in service on a different level. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. It's sweet that you share your ancestors with us, and Chris, that you share your drumming and your ancestral music skills, gifts with us. Okay,
And we can
let's
do a
go.
part two at some late. We can do a part two at some later date, because I didn't mention my mother and the whole history of New England. But anyways, nonetheless, just relationships are important, and especially, who we are and the road that got us to where we are now. So I'm trying to be aware and acknowledge that.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And
And
it strikes me as you were talking about relationship and looking into each other's eyes that I'm not able to do that right now in this format. Relationship in general is a really tricky issue for me right now. And I appreciate that this circle and hearing about your experiences as a child. In some ways, they were polar opposites to mine. My mother had one sister who lived 5 hours away, and we got to see her family a few times a year at holidays. And the same with my dad's older brother and his family, and his older sister died when I was 5. So there weren't, those experiences with 30 or 40 cousins. It was pretty much me, myself, and I, and it's stuffed animals, and sometimes my brother. So that sense of recognition and the sense of learning to bond, the sense of recognition is strong. That process of learning to bond is something that I'm still coming to understand. And I interestingly had a strong experience of that sense of recognition on Monday in the midst of hundreds of people. When I went to vote. And I'm appreciative of that whole experience because it felt in the midst of my isolation as a chance to be a radiant presence and to be hopefully to make a difference. And so I
thank
share
you.
that here.
Yeah.
Love to all
Sweet.
of you, and I appreciate this chance to connect.
Thank you, Sylvia. Yeah.
Interrupt, but I just want to send a hug out to Sylvia.
Of
Big
course.
time.
Of
Okay.
course.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hang in there, sister.
Thank you, Becky. I'm doing what I can to hang in there, Becky.
Well, if I may, Gail, make a response to your grandmother Gail, about deepening relationships. And I was wondering how to come at this earlier. And I was very touched when you were speaking about how you felt this tremendous endearment for the loss of the friendships that you couldn't communicate with, whether it was the trees, because they're down, and that was all sort of disrupted, and then the friends you couldn't communicate with on Zoom for a while, and I thought, but the truth is, we're never really alone in our relationships, because this happened to me 3 or 4 days ago, where I was caused to really look at an injury I've got in my leg, and so you get skin that gets burnt, and all those dear old cells in the leg, and it made me consider: isn't it extraordinary that when we're born, every cell arrives on time to form up the human body. And when it does, it's so full of love of where it came from, every single cell. And then they decide they're going to take on a service life. They're going to be in function to us, to the spirit, to the soul, to me, who's growing up in this world. And one takes on the function of a kidney, and another one takes on the function of a liver. And it's like, okay, so to us, they're a bit like, you see children like Michael DiMartino was saying, and I thought, why do they get these ghoulish looking critters on their clothes, and pumpkins that look like beasties, and I thought, well, in one way, I suppose it's a bit like the cells are invisible to us in our bodies, and we know there's another life beyond this one, which is beyond the veil, and maybe someone some point decided, well, let's let the little ones get used to the fact that there's something happens in this season where the veil is a bit thinner, and they might get a sense of something in the air that they can't quite identify with. So let's put it out there so they don't get frightened in any way. And I thought that's a lovely endearment, if that's, and that's the point about, isn't it, deepening relationships, is there's always a reason for what's being done. Otherwise, it's casual. Otherwise, it means very little. So no deepening goes on. But when you share, a quality of care or kindness or warmth or consideration, or forgiveness, well, suddenly something between us flows, like the cells. They don't argue with the kidney and the liver. No, my function's better than your function. No, I work longer than you work. I work harder than you do. I contribute more than you do. It's they're all in service to one purpose: to keep this spirit soul given an opportunity to grow on this planet and give something back to the creator. So yeah, it made me give a deeper sort of significance to my little feeling for the cells in my body that I ended up saying sorry to, because I caused a problem for my leg, and saying thank you to as well, for continuing to work there in service to our life until the day we take our last breath. So I just thought I'd pass that on.
Thank you, Ursula. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, very sweet.
And I was caught by Michael's little niggle. Michael was speaking about non-appropriation. And I thought, is that because when one doesn't have a feeling, I'm going to serve a community, then it could be that they're taking you for granted. But when they see you offering a service, like a healer or a musician, then nobody's appropriating anything. They're just enjoying the process that one willingly gives, you know, without any return, except the joy of the process together. So that would be my sort of take on coming into a community where not everyone is conscious of the service life you offer. But the fact that you do offer it is a big intention, even if they're not conscious of it, and takes any sense of distance or being owed something, or not disrespecting your skill and your capacity to share something rather special that they may not see the significance of, but you're still sharing it because you know why you're doing it. And I think that's the difference, that you know why you're doing it. Hmm.
Thank you, Ursula. Yeah. SD, I know you could speak to that if we could hear you. Can we try again, or do we give up? We saw you briefly. If you want to turn your video on again. And Michael SD was just about to speak. Let's see if we can hear him now. Can you? No, we still can't hear him. I don't know why we can't hear you, SD. Ah, you're connecting to audio. Just a minute. Maybe there's hopeful activity. No.
I will share that where I'm going is to do some reseeding of a strip mine that is part of my community here in Southeast Ohio called Wisteria. I'm in the Ohio River watershed, and this is the traditional lands of the Shawnee and the Mingo and many mound building cultures over thousands of years. And the land that we have, part of it is a former strip mine. And we just had a very extreme and severe drought, the worst in my 25 years here. And so we're going to be reseeding our balded areas in the field with a rye mixture of seed tomorrow. And the next day I have a crew of people, and really looking forward to honoring the land in that way and helping her be sustainable and helping her recovery. I will say it's, you know, how things are different in different days for different people. One man's difficulty can be another person's blessing. That when the rains of Helene did come this way, they were really the only significant rain we've had here in 4 months. And I'm so grateful for what she brought to us, because she gave us autumn colors. It like came at exactly that time when, if it hadn't have come then, the leaves were just turning brown and dropping. And it was enough to nourish the foliage, but not enough to replenish our watershed. So we're continuing to work with water, and thank her so much for the ways that, I guess water is a they, huh? For the way that they bless us. And so I'm grateful to share my piece, and I'll pass the feather back into the circle, but it's good to join you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chris. That's good to know. We just went 33 days or 34 days without rain, and I didn't realize that was happening in Ohio for so many months. And that is relationship with the land, you know, to pay attention and to do everything we can do to interact, to help, to notice what needs to happen. That's beautiful, Chris. Thank you. I guess unless SD wants to try again, we will close out with the gratitude song. So grateful to all of you for being here in this beautiful way and showing up to deepen into our relationship and our walks in the moonlight. And we hope to see all of you in the full moon. And we'll test things and have SD working for sure by that walk. I think it's a couple weeks. I think it's a Tuesday. I want to say, I'm just going to try one more time. Good, good. Yeah, walking in the moonlight
Yeah, it's
is
Tuesday.
the 12th,
Yeah.
November 12th. So we'll have SD working well by then, and it's walking with the Wisdom Council. We'll have hopefully maybe some more Wisdom Council members coming to share the topic on Tuesday. And hope to see all of you again. Okay, so I'm going to start singing. I'm sending you some sage, SD, but you know, we're cedar people, so I think I better send you some cedar too. See if some cedar can clear that. I used to have a car that the sunroof wouldn't work. Wouldn't close unless I burned sage, so I'm driving down the road in torrential rain, burning sage and trying to close the sunroof on this crazy car. But I'm reminded of sending all this sage to SD to get his mic, and his video seems to work. Actually, it's his mic that we're missing. So I'll start singing, and if he can come in and start talking, I'll stop. And everybody's welcome to sing with me as always. Dunkashalai, unchimalai, nitakeo, unchimaka, lichoni, ilmaya, ancestors, grandmothers, we share compassion. All my relations, grandmother, water is life. We are grateful. And also, you're all invited to learn one of my songs from the dream world on Tuesday, this Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'd love to have you all join and sing together. And I don't know what song we're going to learn. If anybody has the request, we're open to suggestions. And take a look at my YouTube Singing Miss channel and pick one out if you want to. Send it to me, and we'll sing together. So, as always, delighted to see all of you, and
I love
much love and gratitude.
and it might be a bit long, but I'm putting feathers forward.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
may I
Please,
offer
yeah,
the
please.
flute?
Always, Sylvia. Thank you so much. Yeah. Send us out with the music.
And gratitude that I was able to connect on the computer and turn the video on and be seen. And
Yes. Thank you for that beautiful flute music, Sylvia. Until again, everyone.